Okay, welcome back. This is our second video for week 6 in Sociology 105. And we will be focusing on love, romance, and intimacy. Hopefully you have your quiz open. We will be coming up here on question 2 in a minute. So, researchers on love and romantic relationships have found that humans develop the capacity and the need for love as part of our toolkit for survival. Because human children require close supervision and ongoing care for years after birth, unlike most other mammals, children who were loved by their parents most often survived. Since the emotion of love made survival more likely, loving behavior became part of human nature. In the general sense, love is a deep affection and concern for another, someone with who you feel an emotional bond with. Romantic love is the passionate devotion and attraction one person feels for another. Our modern version of romantic love involves an almost imaginary ideal of romantic perfection. Sociologist Anne Swidler outlines 4 qualities of romantic love. First, love is ambiguous and clear. So, love at first sight, for instance. You know you love someone right then and there. Second, love is unique. There is only one true love for each person. Quality 3. If it is true love, you will seek to prove it by overcoming obstacles in the quest for love. Obstacles may be personal, like giving up smoking or going to college, or obstacles may be social. Interracial couples, or in Disney movies, the obstacles may be evil or danger or magic spells. And fourth, love is permanent and eternal. This is obviously a romantic ideal, but it serves as a goal for many in their search for happiness. We have learned this ideal through socialization in our culture. Disney movies and other forms of media constantly stress this kind of love. But the expectation that married people or lifelong mates would in fact love each other wasn't common in Europe until the 1600s. Since then, it has been the ideal. Research has shown that romantic love has existed in virtually all cultures, meaning that love is probably inherent to humans. However, expressions of love, how we show our love, is specific to each culture. And I just now realized we passed over our second quiz question. So quiz question 2, in the discussion on romantic ideals, which sociologist is cited as outlining the 4 qualities of romantic love? The answer is Anne Swidler, your third option. Okay, back to it. In the U.S., prior to the Industrial Revolution, marital relationships were based mainly on economic necessity. This shifted to a need for companionship. Now marriage is increasingly focused on personal growth, individual fulfillment, and deeper intimacy. Choosing the right partner is the key to a successful relationship or marriage. Mate selection hasn't always been as it is now, based on dating and romantic love. In the past, young people most often married someone local and stayed in the town of their birth. Who they married was heavily influenced by their parents and their parents' connections, and also the community. In these times, it was important to bond families to other families, and marriage of their children was one way to do so. But with a changing economy, the rise of cities and decline of rural life in America, new opportunities to move away from home for work or to go to college, parents and community began to have less of an influence on selection of marital partners. This led to a new focus for the basis of marriage in more modern times, romantic love. Since young people were now free to choose their own partners, the process became highly individualized and based on their own attractions and choices. In addition, since economic changes after the Industrial Revolution led to families spending less time together, where before they often used to work together as a team, this left a need for intimacy and bonds with others outside of the family, since they were now lacking in the family unit. Okay, here comes quiz question 3. Keep your ears open. Dating as a practice emerged in the 1920s. So the answer to quiz question 3 is the second option, 1920s. Before that, couples got to know each other mainly at the home of the young woman under the supervision of her parents. Dating moved the getting to know you phase from the private sphere to the public sphere. Dating was socially significant because men asked rather than women asking before, and the rules are now governed by the youth rather than the parents. So I kind of want to go back over that. So in the top picture that you see in this slide, you can see that dating, what we didn't used to call it dating, was called calling. And generally what would happen was a young gentleman would come calling or visit the young woman that he was interested in her home at an arranged time that was arranged in conjunction with her parents. And they would get to know each other by increasing these incidents of calling. So it was often the woman that would ask, or the man would ask the family, "May I come calling?" So in the 20th century, starting in the 1920s, this started to change to dating. And I think we might even be moving away from that now. You all would probably know more about that than me. But dating was really significant because it moved the interaction from the private sphere of the home into the public sphere, meeting in a coffee shop or going to the movies. So it wasn't necessarily in the home. Also, it became traditional for the man to ask the woman to go out, and the rules became governed by the youth who wanted to see each other rather than supervised by the parents. Dating in the 20th century had several goals: pleasure, romance, and possibly mate selection. Formal dating has begun to decline as a practice in the 21st century. The main reason for this is that most people put off marrying until much later in life. So dating for the purpose of choosing a spouse is no longer such a big thing for young people. Mate selection and dating and courtship vary according to several social factors, including social class. In general, parents of the upper classes have more control over the dating and relationship practices than other social classes. The way this is practiced has changed over time, where in times past, parents of the upper class would often arrange marriages for their children. Although these arranged marriages are much less common now, parents of upper-class youth still retain much control over the mate selection of their children by arranging their lives in such a way that they only meet other youth from the same social class. This involves living in neighborhoods and sending their kids to schools that are generally secluded from the rest of society, and arranging social occasions like debutante balls where they will meet others from the same social class. Although people from other social classes are more free to marry who they choose, the system of stratification in society serves to control, to some degree, the mate selection process and promotes romantic partnerships between people of approximately the same social class, simply because that is who we will tend to meet at school, in our neighborhoods, and at our jobs, people in about the same social class as we're in. It's important to note that the mate selection practices that we have been speaking of so far are to some degree heterosexual practices. Same-sex mate selection practices. Do I need a new slide here? No. Same-sex mate selection practices have historically been constrained by social norms and by the law. As mentioned last week, the laws are currently changing, and from this, social and sexual norms are changing from the broader society surrounding same-sex mate selection is becoming more flexible. There are still social expectations to be overcome by peers, family, and neighbors and community. Okay, before I go on to assortative mating, the next one, we'll look at question number 4. In studies looking at mate selection practices among both heterosexual and same-sex couples, it was found that people tend to form partnerships with people with traits like them, and it's the first answer. The concept of assortative mating addresses the question of who individuals choose as mates. In studies looking at both heterosexual and same-sex couples, it has been found that people tend to form committed relationships with people who have traits similar to their own in terms of race, class, education levels, religion, and other factors. So it looks like I got a little ahead of myself there, and question 4 was related to assortative mating. So the answer again is still the first one. Homogamy is dating and mating within one's own race, class, ethnicity, religion, and education level, and this is the most common type of mating. Hypergamy is marrying someone of a higher social status than yours. Hypogamy is marrying someone of a lower social status than yours. There are other factors in mate selection. These are informed by cultural standards specific to us. So, whatever type of cultural standards that are appropriate for our particular culture. For instance, if someone is typically beautiful in our culture, for females, traditionally they should be thin, shorter than the mate that they are looking at, and for males they should look powerful and strong and taller than the female that they are interested in. So these are cultural standards that are specific to us, and not just about how you look, but the man should traditionally the man earns more, and like that. Also, there's individual decisions. There's no sociological explanation for that. Who you are attracted to, who you are interested in. It's also an individual decision. Okay, I will be giving the last question on the next video, which is going to be a very short one. So, all right, that's it for now.